What's going on, guys? It's Seth Ford here, and today or tonight I am back with yet another video, and this time I'm going to be talking about my Carolina Panthers football team, and of course the NFL draft is upon us. We are now officially done with the NFL season, and of course the Chiefs did not win the Super Bowl. That was a complete blowout and a great defensive game by the Philadelphia Eagles, I guess because all the fans and all the media or all the people were just trashing the NFL after that atrocious game with the Chiefs versus the Bills, with all those sketchy calls that made it feel like the NFL favored the Chiefs for some reason. Of course, with Taylor Swift and just all the other crazy stuff that's going on as well. So then the NFL was like, all right, guys, we just need to lay it low a little bit and then let the Eagles just dismantle the Chiefs. I mean, that game was just awesome to watch if you're an NFL fan. Great defensive game. Patrick Mahomes looked lost, though he tried to carry the team on his back. Travis Kelce did absolutely nothing in the Super Bowl. It was great. It was great from my standpoint. So now the Eagles won, and they had a great defense. And the Carolina Panthers, they need a defense like that. They got Jalen Carter on that defense. They got a crazy defensive line. Nolan Smith. They got Sauce Gardner, I believe, as well, because he got traded from the Saints also. So, I mean, they just got a few players on defense. They got Nolan Smith. They got Jalen Carter. They got Jalen Smith. I think that's what his name is, something like that. I mean, they just got so many. They have a ton of Georgia players that were just dogs. LOL. They're just insane good players. They had so many guys that nobody really talked about as well on that defensive team. So here are my top 4 picks that the Carolina Panthers potentially should draft for this year's upcoming draft. And Dan Morgan had a solid draft last year. A lot of fans still are kind of mad about Xavier Legette getting drafted over Ladd McConkey, which I can understand. And but hey, I mean, he did an okay year, though he had a lot of drops, which he needs to address in the offseason. And then, of course, we got Jalen Coker, who was undrafted. So he had a spectacular season the last year, and Jonathan Brooks didn't do so well. And after that, I honestly kind of forgot some of the guys that got drafted last year. So these are my top 4 draft picks for this upcoming season. Or let me know what you guys think about some of these picks that are the Panther fans or just fans in general from the Panthers media, or just circling around which player should be drafted. I'm going to have 3 defensive players and, of course, 1 offensive player in my top 4 of this year's draft class. All right, so number 1, as we all know, number 1 would be Mason Graham. This dude was a dog in front. If Dan Morgan has a chance to draft this guy, this dude was dominating all season long, all his career long. I mean, he had spectacular seasons back to back to back ever since he really started. I mean, he won the college football playoffs last year, 2 years ago, if you want to put it that way. So, I mean, we can just look at his draft grades. I mean, as he started in 2024, as he started in 2022, solid grade in my opinion. I guess that's his first real start as a defensive lineman. Had an 80.3 overall grade. He had games played was 14. Defensive snaps, he had 303 defensive snaps. Passing rush snaps, he had 152. Run defensive snaps, he had 150. So really heavily used his debut year as Michigan Wolverine. He had 3 sacks, pretty impressive. 1 hit. He had 9 hurries. I mean, that's his start of the year as a full-time starter for Michigan, especially in the Big Ten. He had 1 batted down pass, and of course snaps by alignment. Don't really know. Okay, this is all the gaps. So he pretty much played on the B gap position. I'm not too much of an expert on defense with all those A gap, B gap, overall tackle, outside tackle. So he played 4 times off the ball. He had in the B gap, that's where his bread and butter is. I guess kind of similar with Derek Brown. 241 B gap snaps, and he had 30 A gaps his first debut start. And then, of course, pretty much 328 in his second year, and then his last year as a full-time starter, 406 snaps at the B-gap position, and then he went over the tackle 83, outside the tackle 38, and the off the ball 10. So he pretty much improved every single year, which is pretty impressive. The only thing he really didn't improve, what got kind of decreased, was like from the A gap. So he's pretty much really good at the B gap position. All right, so and then his second year, which is 2023, he had a 90 overall grade, which is crazy. He had 13 games played, defensive snaps 442. He had about 251 pass rushing snaps, 188 defensive snaps. He had 4 sacks, and then next year he had 5 sacks, and he had 7 hits. And then he had in last year's season he had 9 hits overall. So he was pretty much dominating in the defensive game. And of course he had 18 hurries. Look, he had, compared to his debut year, he had 9 QB, I guess, rush, I guess, not 9 hurries. Then he went to 18. Then he went to 20. I mean, that's crazy impressive, in my opinion. So hopefully, if Mason Graham a little bit falls back, hopefully that he can be drafted by the Panthers. All right. So the pass rush grade, he had an 81 overall, really solid. Run defense grade, he had a 92.6, really good. True pass rush, don't really know what all that means in my opinion. 87.0%, really solid. And of course, pass rush win rate 13.8% with the which I guess on the right side is really good. And of course, the run stop rate was 12.0%, which from the graph right here on the right side looks really good as well. All right, so the last year's season, as you guys know, that Michigan still had a great season. They beat Ohio State. They won a bowl game against Alabama. So last year was considered their down year. But first game overall against Fresno State, 58.4 as a grade. 71 overall against Texas, really good, even though they lost that game. Against Arkansas State, 85, solid. USC, they won in that game, 83.5. I don't know about Minnesota, 74.8. Then they dominated Washington. I think Washington beat Michigan. I can't remember. But he had a solid game, 90.6 overall. Illinois, 85.9. Michigan State, 76.9. Really solid. It's just overall 80, or against Oregon, 70.9. At Indiana, 70. Northwestern, 80.9. And then when they beat Ohio State, 88.4. I mean, that still, to me, especially in the Big Ten, I don't know what happened to that game. I guess it was just first. They struggled that game. So I guess this is just the first game. So Michigan, overall, I think they went 8-5. They beat Alabama. They beat Ohio State. Funny how that works. And of course, Ohio State wins the national championship this year. All right, so my second pick of the 8th pick of the NFL draft, the Carolina Panthers would select Abdul Carter, who is an edge rusher, could be a potential outside linebacker type of player of hybrid. This dude is a baller. He is a dog. He pretty much dismantled SMU. He pretty much almost beat Notre Dame. Not really beat on Notre Dame, but this dude is a monster. He is 6'3", 252. I mean, this dude was a baller, in my opinion. I know I keep saying that over and over again, but I mean, he's just a great defensive edge, and the Carolina Panthers desperately need a defensive edge or defensive tackle because our defensive line sucks. So, overall grade of 2022 to 2024, 76.2, really good. I guess you can say he kind of fell off a little bit his second year, which is 2023, 69.7, and then he had a overall outstanding year with 91.2 overall grade. Games played, he had played 16 games last year, or this past season. Defensive snaps, he bulked up in defensive snaps compared to his last 2 years from 500 to 700, which is crazy. Pass rushing snaps, still insane from like 100 to 352. I guess they used him as like a hybrid outside linebacker type, maybe. I don't know. I'm just making stuff up. But run snap defense, he had from 268 from 206 to 322. That's crazy. He had 13 sacks this year. He was a dog from the outside. That's what the Carolina Panthers need, is somebody that can get to the quarterback because they lost Brian Burns, even though he really didn't do too much with the Giants this year. And so, yeah, it is what it is. I mean, he's a great defensive edge, but he didn't really do too much with the Giants. Though, this past season, Abdul Carter, or I'll just say Carter, This dude had 43 hurries compared to his previous season, which is 2023, 18 to 43. I mean, crazy 43 hurries. He just went off this year. I mean, it was crazy. It was just wild. It was like, all right, so let's go ahead and go to the 2024 comparables. His pass rushing grade, really solid, 92.3. His run defense grade, really, really good, 78.2. And then his true pass set, pass rush grade, he had 93.0, solid, really just fantastic. And of course, his pass rush win rate was 22.8%. I guess on the right side means was really, really good. His run stop rate was 7.6%, which is, I guess you can say, in the middle of the pack. So I guess that's average to great, and it's just like good. So I guess he struggled with the run stop maybe a little bit here and there, but it is what it is. All right, so the 2024 grades by game. West Virginia didn't really have a great game. I guess this is the first game of the year. Had a 43.9% overall grade. And then he had Bowling Green. He had a 71 overall grade. Kent State, 74 overall grade. Illinois, 86.4 overall grade. Really, really good. And then UCLA, 74 overall grade. USC, 84.1. Wisconsin, 74. Ohio State, 76.5. Then he popped off against Washington with 93 overall grade. 76.1 overall grade versus Purdue. And then he kind of regressed a little bit against Minnesota with 64.5. Then he popped off against Maryland, 91.4. SMU destroyed that team. That dude had like 4 interceptions for SMU, 71.7. And then they lost to Oregon in the Big Ten championship, and he popped off there, but he had 76.7. Then they beat Boise State 71.4 and lost, but had a great stellar game against Notre Dame, 80.8. So he had a great game, a great year this year. I would definitely pick him as my go-to guy for this year's draft class. So that's my second player. The next player I would like to talk about, a lot of Panther fans are kind of like drooling over this guy. And you say he's 6'5", 212 pounds. The Panthers need another wide receiver in the draft, but I don't think the Panthers should take McMillan in the first round at the 8th pick of the NFL draft. I think that we should definitely go defense first, maybe pick a wide receiver in the draft. But this guy, Teroa McMillan, don't know how to pronounce that first name, 6'5", 212 pounds. This year, he had a great year. A little regress from the previous year. He had 87.4 overall compared to 84.8. Games played, 12. And passing snaps, 485. Slot snaps, 105. Wide snaps, so he definitely used as a deep threat type of player, 379. Receptions, he had 84. Targets, 130. Yards, kind of decreased from last year. He had 1,316 pass and receiving yards. Still pretty solid, in my opinion. Yards per catch is 15.7. Really, really good. He had 8 touchdowns this year. His previous year, to that one, he had an 87 overall grade. He had 1,396 receiving yards, averaged about 15.5, and 10 touchdowns. So that's solid, in my opinion, too. I mean, those are really, really good grades as a wide receiver. So he's like, I guess you can say, he's like another Kelvin Benjamin type of receivers where he's big-bodied, and of course, Xavier Legette. The Panthers need another big type body of receiver. But this guy is probably way better and way more physical than Kelvin Benjamin, which, I mean, he had a great rookie year, and then he just kind of fell off after that, which stinks for them. But Panthers definitely need a guy if Xavier Legette doesn't really work out well in the future. All right, so 2024 grades, we have 85 overall, 0.8, which is solid. Yards per route run, 2.87, which is solid. Drop rate, so boy, here we go. This is why some people are kind of questionable about McMillan. This guy kind of be like Xavier Legette this past season, 7.7%. That my friend, is going to be a little worrisome. 7.7%, which is on the graph to the left, which means not good. And of course, that's not good at all. All right, so contested catch rate 60.0%, which is good. Grade versus man coverage. This is solid though. He is really good against man coverage, 89.0. So that's a little questionable as a drop rate because Panther fans would lose their minds, as myself as well included, that we would lose our minds because the drop rate. Xavier Legette dropped too many passes that could have won games. It is what it is. All right, 2024 advanced stats, 7 drops this year. Yards after catch reception, 5.1, tied for 247th, not great. Missed tackles forced, pretty good right here, 29, which is tied for second. Average depth of target, 13.7, which is tied for 127th. Okay. Deep catches, tied for 21st. 12 catches, which is solid. Deep yards, 472, which is 21st, which is pretty good. Screen catches, I guess they didn't really do that many screens. He had 6, which is tied for 276 in the league. Screen yards, 4, tied for 441 first. I mean, not too great at all either. Slot catches, 26, tied with 176. Slot yards, 452, 110th overall. And then, of course, contested catches, which is 18. So they definitely did a lot of deep passes with this guy, tied for 7th in the league for college football. And, of course, the grades, they're all right. I wouldn't be too impressed. He had a great game against New Mexico, which is 94.2, which, I mean, it's New Mexico, so they're not that great. Northern Arizona, I believe that's who it is. He had a not-so-great game, which is 57.4. Had a good game against Kansas State, 73.8. And, of course, Utah, he had an okay game, average game, which is 61.1. Had a good game against Texas Tech, 71.6. BYU, 60.3, not great. I mean, it's okay. It's in the bright range, not the red. Colorado, still average, 64.5. Had a solid game against West Virginia, 89.7. Had a good game against UCF, not bad, 77.3. Had an okay game against Houston. Had a solid game against TCU, and struggled against Arizona State, which even though Arizona State was solid this year, which shocked me the most. I'm a little skeptical about this guy. I haven't really watched him that much this year, but some of the Panther fans in our fan base are drooling over this guy because he is a big body type receiver, which the Panthers need another guy alongside with Xavier Legette, Jalen Coker, and then maybe draft like a slot receiver, a speedy receiver. Who knows? But we'll see how it goes. All right, and lastly, this video is kind of long. Lastly, we have one of the most underrated guys in the league of college football, who is one of the best linebackers in the SEC, who dominated Texas twice, who dominated. He just destroyed just the offensive line. Had so many hurries. This guy was a beast, in my opinion, and is underrated. And wherever he goes, I think he'll be a beast. Now, I know that some people say that his grades aren't that great. He had some issues here and there, but if he's on the right team with the right defense, this guy is going to be a underrated gem, in my opinion. So, 2022, not so great. His debut year, 63.2, which is like a D, in my opinion. 72.6. No, wait, that's an F. 72.6 is a D. Not bad. Green, which means good. 73.1. So he had some average years this year, but if you watch some games closely, that dude was terrorizing offenses, in my opinion. Defensive snaps, he had 622 this year compared to last year. In the last season, they had pass rush snaps 195, run defensive snaps 249. Did I do the advanced snaps for any of these guys? I didn't have them. Huh, that's weird. But anyways, so yeah, coverage snaps, he had 178. Tackles, he had 36 tackles. Assisted tackles, 15. Though these right here are a little skepticism with 7 missed tackles this year. Snaps by alignment. D-line, he played a lot of 249 snaps on the defensive line. He had 61 slot. So he was kind of like a hybrid player as well. Corner, he had 0. Box, I guess that's a linebacker, obviously, 311. So he played a lot of defensive line to switch out to the box. I mean, he was good. Like, in my opinion, I think he was really, really good. So, and of course, the 2024 comparables, as you guys can see right here. Oh, wait, I need to redo that. Oops. Anyways. All right, so the 2024 comparables, pass rush grade, 83 overall, really, really solid. Run defense grade, not so great. This is in the orange, so I guess the orange is really bad. 62.3. Coverage grade, pretty average, pretty good. 67.5. Average depth of run tackle, not so great with 3.0. And of course, missed tackle rate, not so great, which is on the right side, 12.1%. Percentiles, linebackers with 300 plus snaps. 2024 advanced stats, we cover spot. He was tied for 192nd, 10 cover stops, run stops, 21, which is ranked 301st, not great. Receptions to targets, had 10, allowed 10 receptions to 12 targets. Completion percentage, not great either, 83.3, tied for 535th, not great. Only allowed 1 touchdown to force completions, 0. Passer rating allowed, 125.3. Okay, these stats are kind of like not great looking for him. But if you watch Jalen Walker, this dude was terrorizing the offensive lines. Like, he was that good in my opinion. I watched him play as a fan, casual fan, just whenever Georgia played on national TV. All right, Clemson. They dominated Clemson with 77.1. Had a really, really good game. And I guess he didn't really do that much against Tennessee Tech. 55.5 overall grade. Had a really solid game against Kentucky. 73.1. Had an average game against Alabama. 65.1. Had an average game against Auburn. 62.1. Mississippi State had an okay, solid game. 69.8. Had a solid game. This is what I meant. He dominated Texas with 79 overall grade. And, of course, I guess he didn't really do anything at all against Florida with 46.3. Ole Miss, 73.5. Tennessee, 59.8. UMass, 59.5. Didn't really do too much. Georgia Tech, 65.1. Texas had a good game, but not the first game. But he dominated the first game. In the second game, had a 67.5. And Texas lost in the SEC championship. Of course, Notre Dame, they lost. Had an okay-ish game, 65.2. All right, so this was a lengthy video. Sorry if you just cut off the video, but let me know in the comments below what you guys think. If you did watch the video all the way through, thank you. You are a true warrior for listening to me just talk about football. I'm going to try to get back into the swing of things as the Carolina Panthers NFL draft is getting closer and closer and closer. All right, guys, Seth Ward here. More videos on the way. If I do talk about stuff, it's just the off season, so I'm not really making videos much as when the season starts, but I'll try to make more videos in the meantime. All right, guys, Seth Ward here. Y'all have a great rest of the day. See you guys next time. Peace out.